Today's episode of Saints Now is all about trade rumors. Could a quarterback be headed to Las Vegas in return for Jakobi Meyers? We're going to talk about Jake Haener and his future because there's a potential that he could be cut, he could be traded, he could be kept. In my personal opinion, I don't think he's a lock to make this roster. And as you see, we're also going to dive into the Jakobi Meyers trade rumors. He recently requested a trade in Las Vegas. We're going to discuss it on Saints Now by Chat Sports. Be sure to like today's video. Let's talk about Jake Haener because I believe his future is uncertain in New Orleans. Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler are obviously the two main guys in the quarterback battle in New Orleans. Jake Haener just hasn't been impressive enough. He hasn't been good enough to compete for the QB1 position. So in my opinion, he is a player that could be expendable for Kellen Moore and this new Saints offense. Jake Haener was not drafted by this regime. The Saints did trade up in the 4th round to go and get him back in the 2023 NFL draft. He's out of Fresno State. He's a tough player, a gamer for sure, but he just hasn't been good enough in New Orleans. So in my opinion, he is a player who is at risk of potentially being moved before roster cutdowns, which the deadline, reminder, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central Time. Jake Haener's production in eight career games, I should say, just hasn't been good. A quarterback rating of 62.6, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 226 yards. He just hasn't been consistent. And I'm going to be honest, it's a shame that he hasn't worked out, and there's no disrespect towards this player because he was a guy that came in as a Saints fan. He had a Reggie Bush jersey as a kid. Like, it was really cool, and it was a fun story. And, you know, I hate to say that it hasn't worked out, but that's just the honest truth, and I'm always going to keep it real here on the channel. Now, I will say I do think that he could serve as a QB3 because he is a valuable part in that role. He has a very high football IQ. He's good with the X's and O's. And if you don't believe me, Nick Underhill has said the exact same thing. I just don't think that he is a lock to make this roster as Kellen Moore tries to build his new team and create his roster in New Orleans for the future. I just can't promise you that Jake Haener is a part of that future. We've already gotten rid of one Fresno State quarterback. Maybe another one is on the way out. There are some teams in the NFL who could benefit from bringing in a backup quarterback. The Raiders are definitely looking for one. Aidan O'Connell, he recently suffered a fractured wrist. They are in the market for a quarterback. Dallas Cowboys, Joe Milton, but hasn't been amazing. It hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been amazing. So, to be honest, I think that the Cowboys, they're also always a team that's looking to make some ridiculous trades and bring in quarterbacks or whatever position. The New England Patriots could use some depth behind Drake May. The Rams, they have Jimmy Garoppolo, but Stetson Bennett is also on the roster. Maybe they could look for a more valuable quarterback or a better quarterback, if you will. In the Indianapolis Colts, you know, I know they got Anthony Richardson, but they're just a dumpster fire at the quarterback position. They could also benefit from having another guy around. I will say the New Orleans Saints obviously do not have to trade Jake Haener. I don't think that the Saints are shopping him, to be totally honest. It hasn't been any reports out there, but I will say there is a case to be made because his future with this team just is uncertain. And now what I would do is I would be in the market to trade Jake Haener just for a 7th-round pick. Let's just get our 7th-round pick back for this year. You lost your 7th-round pick in 2026 because you traded it to the Patriots for Devon Godshaw. But you also don't have your 7th-round pick next in the following year, and you don't have your 4th-round pick next year because of the Devon Vele trade. So try to recoup some of that draft capital back. Get Jake Haener out of here for a 7th-round pick. I think that that's a win for everybody. Now, what would you do if you were Mickey Loomis? Put on your GM hat. Cut Haener, trade Haener, keep Haener. I want you to type C, type T, type K. What would you do? Get in the comment section. Share your thoughts. I want to hear from you, Who Dat Nation, because I know that y'all know ball, and I know that y'all got some opinions on this. Now, we're also going to discuss the Jakobi Meyers trade rumors. Reports coming in from Jordan Schultz. Jakobi Meyers has requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm going to talk about why the New Orleans Saints should be in the market for this player, and they should be making some calls. But first, I want to tell you about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the whole wide world. This episode of Saints Now is brought to you by Prize Picks. Football is here. College football is underway, so don't miss out on any of the action this season on Prize Picks. It's a fun and simple way to test your ball knowledge and turn it into cold, hard cash. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. This season, I'm rolling with these projections because I like to try to speak things into existence. And plus, it keeps me locked in all season long. The Saints, it may be a tough year. Let's just keep it real. But I'm going to be locked in all season long thanks to Prize Picks. I got the more on Chris Olave's receiving yards. I got the more on Alvin Kamara's receiving touchdowns. And I got the more on Lamar Jackson's passing yards. Life's too short to project the less. Come on, folks. Get started with Prize Picks. It's also available in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Join the millions of users on Prize Picks and sign up today. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS when you download the Prize Picks app, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All that information is in the comment section and description of this video. Get started with Prize Picks. Run your game. Now let's dive into some trade rumors. Jakobi Meyers, as we have talked about, has requested a trade. And he is entering the final year of his contract. He's very frustrated with the situation in Las Vegas because he's seeking an extension. He's seeking some new money. And he's coming off his first 1,000-yard season, and he was proven to be a pretty good commodity in that Raiders offense. He is due $10.7 million this season. So if the New Orleans Saints were to trade for him, you have money to spend, and you could afford his contract. And you could also afford to try and pay him a little bit in the future, or load the contract up now and then pay him less in the future. You could get creative with the contract. Kai Harley, wizard when it comes to the cap space, but he has been seeking a new contract. There's been zero progress on an extension in Las Vegas, and that is why he is on the market. In the last 4 years in Jakobi Meyers' seasons, he has been pretty good. 800 yards or more over the last 4 years, 1,000 yards for the first time last season, over 11 yards per catch in the last 2 years, 4 touchdowns, 0 drops. This guy could be really effective. I do think that the New Orleans Saints are a team that could use more, I'm just going to call it what it is, more talent on the wide receiver room. Nothing against Brandon Cooks. He's just a little bit older of a player, and I think Jakobi Meyers could be a really good player in this team, especially if Kellen Moore can scheme plays around Jakobi Meyers. You have Chris Olave, who's a dog. Rashid Shaheed is going to be great. Devon Vela, you traded for. He's a 6'5" wide receiver, can operate over the middle. He's a possession guy, but you have decisions to make around the rest of the depth chart. Mason Tipton, I think, has earned a spot on this depth chart, and it's just, I'm a firm believer that you could definitely use more weapons on this offense. Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, one of these two guys is going to be your quarterback this year, and you're going to need to have more talent around him to give each of those players a better opportunity to succeed. It's going to be pretty ugly. There's going to be growing pains, but bring talent around these players, build a team around these guys, and build the foundation to get to sustain success, because year one, it might be not very pretty, but in year 2, year 3, year 4, that's when you're trying to achieve that sustained success. And I think I think that Jakobi Meyers could be a good addition to this offense. 6'2", 200 pounds. He is very similar to the size profiles that you have on this roster. Devon Vela still is the biggest wide receiver on the pass-catching room outside of the tight ends. 87 catches, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a long of 43 yards, and I just think that the Saints should at least be in the market and make a call. I don't think that you need to trade away the farm. I don't think you need to get everything away from him, but I do know that the Raiders are a team that could benefit from bringing in a backup quarterback. We discussed it a little bit ago. Aidan O'Connell, he fractured his wrist in the last preseason game, and they are in the market for an experienced quarterback. Jake Haener, of course, doesn't have a ton of experience. It's not a ton of quality experience, and it hasn't been very impressive. But for what it's worth, he has been around the league for some time. He's been a backup quarterback. He knows how to serve that role. So potentially it could make sense, and it could be a good pairing for both teams to get rid of a quarterback that isn't going to be much of a contributor in New Orleans, and get rid of a wide receiver that is requesting a trade in Las Vegas. Now, my trade idea, I want to throw it out there. Let's make it a little bit enticing. Not only am I going to give the Raiders a quarterback in Jake Haener, I'm also going to throw in Isaiah Foskey, but the cherry on top, try to keep some of that draft capital. I would be much happier sustaining that draft capital and holding on to it than keeping Isaiah Foskey around. Just going to call a spade a spade. We're going to cut him anyway. Might as well try to get something in return. What do you think about this trade? Would you do it? I'm going to ask you, Who Dat Nation. Get in the comment section. Share your thoughts. I'm also going to take it to Twitter and social media. So if you want to see what other Saints fans are thinking, be sure to go follow me on social media, Trace Girouard 48 on IG and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to Saints Now by Chat Sports. Roster cuts are tomorrow. We will have information. We will have updates. We will have news here on the channel. So subscribe, turn on your notifications, and as soon as the practice squad is set, we'll also let you know about that. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all stay golden, and we'll see you next time.